Who doesn't like cops and robbers? The age-old battle of the law versus the outlaw seems primed and ready for a game from the Battlefield universe. Visceral Games, in collaboration with EA Digital Illusions CE, brings the war on crime to the player with explosions, weapons, car chases, vehicles, and large-scale encounters.
Have a grenade, punk ass bitch! This thing's falling apart!
From an outward appearance, the game has all the indicators of a typical Battlefield game. And yet it doesn't take full advantage of the setting that is so primed and perfect for this universe. Without a doubt, the epic Battlefield moments of sheer chaos and intensity are still intact, alive and kicking within Hardline. But the player can't help but feel that there were missed opportunities here, and some very apparent issues with the game's mechanics. Does Hardline live up to the high expectations that Battlefield fans and players have? More importantly, is Battlefield Hardline worth it? I'll say up front that Battlefield Hardline does some cool and unique things in both its single player and multiplayer components, but there are multiple gameplay related concerns that hold this game back from greatness. On the single player side of things, it's a campaign that's 10 missions long. Each mission took me about 30 minutes to complete. You'll travel from the back alleys of Miami to the Everglades to LA mansions and giant skyscrapers during the 4th of July. The game treated every mission like a TV episode, and it tries to present the story just like a TV cop drama would. This is freaking awesome, and I wish more campaigns would take note. If you leave the campaign and come back, a brief cinematic will play that shows last time on Hardline, catching you up on all the previous details and throwing you right back in the action. Think like Dragon Ball Z, last time on blah blah blah, and you see a bunch of clips, and it immediately gets you excited to play once again.
Hands up, now!
Good evening to you, too.
Detective, do you know this man?
Oh, him? He does spreadsheets.
Also, at the end of each episode is like the kind of the Netflix countdown screen to play the next episode. Gives you a little taste of what's coming up. The voice acting and the motion capture performances are quite frankly amazing. Way more than what I had expected from a Battlefield game.
It's been over an hour.
Maybe he got lost.
There's a sign on the door that leads to the tank. How hard could it be?
Hey guys, sorry, I got lost.
Where the hell are you?
Finding the water tank was easy. Finding the drainage, not so much. More pipes than a church organ in there.
Hey, Tyson, man, stay away from the cameras.
Relax. All they're seeing is a hard-working window washer.
Get the cable ready. We're moving in. Minimal radio contact from here on out.
Got it.
The cast of celebrities and characters within Hardline's narrative are by far one of the strongest points of the campaign, with my standouts being Benito Martinez, who you've probably seen lately in House of Cards.
No, you sent them away. You see, I think you finally figured out who you really are. You're just like me.
And Adam Harrington, who's been in CSI, he was the voice actor of Roy Earl in L.A. Noire. He's been in a lot of other places, too.
Where'd you get that thing, anyway?
Boomer. He's worked for more than a couple of bank robbers.
The transition from cutscene to gameplay is just about as close to seamless as it gets. Huge props to Visceral for assembling the cast that they did and for getting such excellent performances. And I'm serious, when you're watching these cutscenes, it's a joy to look at these like actors and to sort of see their likeness in a game. It's opening the doorway to this really cool merge between Hollywood and games and how the two are just starting to interact more. But as good as the cast may be, the gameplay holds this campaign back in a significant way. The player in each mission has the option of holding out their badge to cause the enemy to freeze, as long as you surprise the would-be criminal. After brandishing your badge, the criminals are then one right stick click away from being arrested, and you can freeze up to 3 enemies at a time. At first, this makes for a really cool stealth element to the game in which Metal Gear Solid tactics must be used to avoid the opponent's cone of vision. It allows the player to approach scenarios the way they want, guns a-blazing or tactical and stealthy. Here's the issue though. The game awards the maximum points for stealth, and after the first 30 or so arrests, the mechanic grows old. It gets worse in the fact that the immersion of the story is destroyed by the battle-hardened criminals and private military officers giving up immediately at the sight of a badge.
Now, all of the enemies, they know I'm coming right now. The bad guy knows I'm coming. Look at this. Hey. They still give up. That is absurd. I'm not even a cop at this point in the campaign anymore. It's just... yeah.
I love the intention of giving players the option on how they want to approach a scenario, stealthy or going in guns a-blazing. But don't award the player more points for doing the absolute absurd option that breaks the immersion of the campaign. If these battle-hardened dudes are just throwing their guns on the ground, oh, freeze, okay, arrest me, officer. These are trained professionals. It just is ludicrous. Other reviewers have called this arrest system comical, as these vicious thugs just immediately give up. I don't think it was funny. I thought it was disappointing how this one mechanic completely destroyed the story immersion. My solution would be make arresting criminals more difficult based on if they struggle or resist. Imagine trying to arrest one of these private military members who fights back and struggles, causing you to have to execute CQC maneuvers in order to silence him before he alerts the rest of the squad. This would make more sense from the story perspective and allows the stealth option to still be a choice open to the player. It wouldn't take much to expand on this system because I do like giving players options. It feels like they don't want you to use your gun. I had the most fun the moment I stopped trying to earn the maximum amount of points and just started shooting the place up. But that itself is ironic because in the story you're supposed to be this good cop, and the most fun is had when you start blasting apart neighborhoods full of all these ambiguous criminals. For about half the game, you're just fighting random criminals with no clear reason as to why they're bad other than just because they're criminals, kid, they're bad people. The game struggles with its premise. It's hard to strike a balance when the Battlefield player expects a war shooter, and then you have to contend with the motives of being a good cop. You can't just slaughter hundreds of people without any motive, you know? One of the biggest disappointments too for me is the fact that there is just no reason to ever use the cop gadgets the game offers. There's zip lines and tear gas, and since you're a cop, you of course don't get grenades. But so few levels even offer the opportunity to set up a zipline or any reason to, vice versa. The tear gas and just so many of the cool gadgets that you could have as a cop just are not present. You really are just probably going to be shooting and arresting people for 5 or 6 hours. And then we get to the story. The narrative of Hardline is absolutely predictable from the start. The imitation of a TV cop drama lets the player see the general story from a mile away. You'll pick it out instantaneously if you've had any experience with some TV related, I mean anything like this, even a movie. To not spoil, I'm just going to say this. The motivations of the main character are completely destroyed with the game's conclusion. It goes against the core theme of the entire narrative arc up until that point and really weakens the main character's resolve. It's disappointing to say the least, and abrupt. Characters are constantly betraying you to the point where you come to expect it with the conclusion of every mission. It becomes a cliche, and you don't even know the characters enough, well enough in the beginning for it to really matter. But it's just oh, yep, there we go. There it happens again. The game is at its best when it goes over the top and acknowledges the tropes it's playing off of. There's a mix of serious and comically insane. I would have preferred it if the whole game just went totally over the top with explosions, chaos, and more, and embraced the action movie Hardline-esque style instead of trying to sort of skirt through the middle. Oh, something serious, but so just be it, own it up that you are basically the cop drama and you are going to do every cop drama thing, but you're going to do it times 1,000 and make it absolutely ridiculous.
Clip on! I'll be right behind you! Where are they?
Shit!
Find them! Check the Falcon! Hurry! There they are! You! Stop right there! Go! Go!
narrative of this game is a disappointment, and it is the weak link in an otherwise excellent cast of characters, actors, and a really enjoyable set of performances. Yes, motion cap facial performances. You just wanted one of the zingers or one-liners to hit with you. You wanted to laugh at it. I like these characters so much, but never did their zingers or one-liners hit. I loved these characters more than the story, purely from the performances, not the writing side of things. Tom Bizzle was the main writer for Hardline, according to IMDb. His past work includes a 2011 film, The Loneliest Planet, and that appears to kind of be it. This is his first foray into video game writing, according to IMDb. Also noted is that Wendy Calhoun was a narrative consultant. If you don't know who this is, she's written for Empire, she's written for Nashville, Revenge, Justified Life, Monster House, and The Aquanauts, a lot of big TV shows, so she has experience with this, but was only a consultant. You know, the cinematic elements do feel like a cop drama. It succeeds there. Just some cool facts. The director of Hardline's campaign is Ian Milham, who was the art director for Dead Space, Dead Space 2, and Dead Space Downfall. I do want to just bring that up. I think that this game could have used more critique and refinement in the writing portion of it. I love The Last Time on Hardline and the other TV-esque elements that are in the game. It's really cool, and it's something that is unique. The cast performances are amazing. As I've said through this whole portion, the writing needs work, and the gameplay mechanics need to resolve the issue that the arrest system demonstrates. Don't give people an unfair amount of points or what feels unfair for the gameplay mechanic that just doesn't fit. It's like these are, I mean, it's silly. It's silly. But hey, most folks, including myself, don't buy Battlefield for the single player, and I will say Hardline's campaign is better than many of the previous Battlefield campaigns. So let's get into the multiplayer. Number one, it worked at launch, which is a pretty big deal. I hate that it's a big deal now, but it is a pretty big deal for a Battlefield game. The weapon audio is incredible.
Ain't nothing big dogs around here.
The sound design team for Battlefield Hardline deserves a huge amount of recognition because it sounds incredible. The transitions from the street to interiors, every weapon in every location sounds so good. It is something that is a joy. It's so fun to try a new gun. It's fun to fire guns in different areas. The audio team did a kick-butt job, and I love it. Well done. The movement, the handling, and the gunplay is tight, fast, and fun. This is one of Hardline's best features in the multiplayer. It's a faster, lighter version of Battlefield 4. You feel not like a soldier weighed down with a lot of equipment, but rather like a lightly armed detective as you're supposed to feel in this game. I know this is kind of unrelated, but the social media team and brand interaction so far with Visceral and Hardline, it's been really good. I like the way they handle their community interaction. But it brings us to the big but, the modes. The modes in Hardline, in my opinion, are disappointing and really lack the potential that this game had to offer. Again, you can have a lot of fun in Battlefield Hardline. You can have a lot of moments of classic, intense chaos, these Battlefield-esque moments that you can only get in this series where cars are flipping and exploding while helicopters are dropping off troops, and there is those elements here. And if you're a Battlefield fan, you can have those moments of fun. But the modes just expose... it's almost like they didn't test the modes as much as they should have, and that's just the way it feels. So Heist is a game mode where the robbers have to steal 2 packages and deliver them, and that's just about it. The disappointment here, and I think Heist is one of the better modes in the game, the disappointment here is that it's not more like Battlefield's Rush. the robbers only have to take 2 packages from a static location and then continue to do that. But the location doesn't change, and you're fighting on the same place on the map over and over again. Why was this not like Rush? If you don't know, Rush, there's usually 3 or 4 points in the map where you have to arm a bomb, blow it up, and then you can advance to the next section of the map. And then there's like 3 to 4 segments of the map. If Heist was like that, it would be infinitely better instead of just having... Okay, there's certain maps that it's way too easy for the cops to hold down an area without much work. But you fight in the same place the whole time, and it's just not that much fun when Battlefield has the potential, and we've seen it with Rush, to show you different segments of the map at different times. How cool would it be if the first segment was the robbers having to break into the vault, and that took a bit of work for them to do. If they complete that, they then have to get to the getaway vehicles, which is like another section of the map. And then the final section of the map is them having to get to the chopper or the airport or the airstrip to get away with the money. You get 3 different sections of the map, each with different styles of gameplay, different lengths of sight lines, so you could have close quarters, interiors, and then outdoors, and it just falls short. It's such a disappointment because the heist maps can get very dull. And if you are on some of the maps that I think are a little bit more cop favored or maybe robber favored, you can have games that end in 3 to 4 minutes. It's missed potential from a game series that have brought us incredible game modes in the past. We then have Hotwire, which many review sites actually praised it as being the best mode and one of the coolest things to come out of Battlefield in the last few years. I didn't have the same experience with Hotwire. In general, it just turns into people driving cars around. If you don't know, the mode is to try and capture cars. The cars are kind of like king of the hill points, and you need to drive them above a certain speed to accumulate points. There's usually 4 or 5 cars on the map active at once. And what it turns into, at least on Xbox One, is people driving in circles for a long time. Rarely do you actually have people killing the cars and pushing out and doing more team-oriented play. It seems like there needs to be an additional objective in Hotwire, like this car grants bonus points if you take it out in the next 2 minutes. That directs the attention towards a focal point instead of having people aimlessly driving around the map for 10 minutes at a time. I didn't find it to be as fun as I thought the mode was going to be. We have an SND mode, 5v5, no respawns, and it's a hostage mode where you're trying to save 2 hostages, get them back to your base. This is a lot like a Counter-Strike mode. Okay, it is basically the Counter-Strike mode. And while I can praise the game for having a cool spectate system, it really falls short because the maps they used are just segmented off portions of the main maps. They're not designed specifically for the mode, which these modes require that. It's fun, but it doesn't feel like Battlefield. Battlefield is large-scale encounters with huge explosions, things going off, and a lot of players. 5v5 Counter-Strike game type doesn't seem to work. It just never clicked with me over the time that I was playing. You have VIP, which is a game mode that is a total afterthought, and it's meant to be in the esports playlist. Another 5v5, no respawns. It's disappointing to say the least, and it's mainly because the maps are just segmented off versions of the bigger maps. They're not designed specifically for 5v5 game types. In general, most people are probably not going to play these playlists. They feel like an afterthought. You have Team Deathmatch and Conquest. These are game types that come from classic Battlefield. Team Deathmatch is a lot of fun with some iffy spawn issues. They've already remarked that they're going to be fixing spawn issues in the next patch that's coming out for Battlefield Hardline. And Conquest feels like, well, Conquest with less weapons and less variety than what Battlefield 4 has to offer. Without tanks and jets and a lot of the vehicles that do aggressive armed damage, it just doesn't feel like Conquest is as fun as it has been in the past, and that can sort of be expected, of course. My favorite mode is Blood Money, in which players have to go to a central location, accumulate money from this safe, and then take it back to their base, which is their spawn point. But one of the cool things here is the opponent can actually sneak into your spawn point, your base, and steal that money back. This was one of the most creative, fun game types in Hardline, and the one that I felt like had the most legs. It was really fun to get a group of people to sneak in, take money for the enemy's base, and then try and get it back to our base. It's a cool way to do sort of a King of the Hill mixed with VIP. It was a really great game type, and I liked it. But the rest tended to fall short for me. You've got this amazing cops and robbers scenario where No gadgets really come into play in multiplayer. Nobody's ziplining out there. You have tear gas. That's about it. That's the only thing that you really run into. And that's a huge disappointment because there's so many cool things that you could do with this. And from a game mode perspective, I wish there were more modes in here that felt like I wanted to spend time in them. Heist needed to be more like Rush. It needed to have more areas of the map. Hotwire needs an objective, otherwise just people driving around. Blood Money's pretty cool. The 5v5 playlists are fun-ish, but the maps needed to be designed for those playlists. And TDM and Conquest are good fun, but they are tried and true, proven game types that have just been ported into Hardline, so you can't give them like crazy praise. They've just sort of been surgically inserted here. From a weapons perspective, you have about, I think it's like 54 weapons in Hardline. Just to put in perspective, Battlefield 4 had about 70 weapons in the vanilla launch of the game, so you are getting less. I do like the way the guns feel. One of the things that is present is you have to spend money you earn in-game to buy the weapons that you like. This system feels fairly slow to me in contrast with Battlefield 4's leveling up system, and I've just not tried as many weapons as I would like to because it takes a ton of money to buy these items. That barrier of entry disappoints me. I wish this in-game currency would be used on cosmetic things like skins for your gun, or maybe attachments, but not the guns itself. A huge part of Battlefield's fun is trying out a lot of weapons. But when they have this slow arc of progression of getting the money to buy the actual guns, it deters you from trying out the wide assortment of guns in the game, unless you are a hardcore player, of course, or a really dedicated Battlefield player. I love the Battlefield series, but Hardline, I really felt myself having to grind for more money to just try a weapon. And then if I didn't like the weapon, I really regretted that decision. It just was not a system I enjoyed that much. But that's fairly subjective, of course. I will say this. You can have good moments of fun in Hardline, but there's a lot of missed potential here, and the game modes do not reflect the strength of previous Battlefield titles in the franchise, and that's where I'll leave it at. So as the total package, how does Battlefield Hardline play itself out? It's an above average game, and I give it a 7 out of 10. Very close to a 6 out of 10. I debated for a long time, but at the end of the day, there's amazing resources in this game. Visually, it's fun to look at. It is fun to play. It just doesn't live up to the really high expectations that I have from a Battlefield game, which are like usually 9 out of 10 type games, you know? Hardline is in its infancy. It did some great things in its single player. The writing team needs to totally overhaul their strategy, but they really should continue with this franchise. I guarantee you, if they refine this process more, Hardline can evolve into this great thing that can stand up on its own 2 legs and proudly proclaim, I am a part of the Battlefield franchise and I offer something unique that makes me Hardline. It didn't stand up bold enough and give me that this time. So, is it worth it? For Xbox One players, we've been in a real dry spot, so if you're looking for a fun game, you can get some great time out of Hardline. If you're on the PC or, you know, just not really into Hardline, not really fully into it, go buy Battlefield 4 with all the DLC. It represents a much better package at this point if you're looking for that flavor of thing. For Battlefield fans, yeah, you're going to have a good time with this game, so I think it's worth it if you are a Battlefield fan. If you are not a Battlefield fan, I think you're going to get better value out of Battlefield 4.
Tyson's back on schedule. Give me the C4.
Here.
Got a peanut butter and jelly sandwich in here too?
Well, I could write bomb across it if you want.
Come on, let's get this over with.
Overall, I had fun with the game, and I hope you guys enjoyed this review. I tried to give it as much thought and time as I could. That's why I waited so long to actually do this review. Didn't want to rush it out the door. Wanted to make sure the opinion I gave was grounded. And again, it's all opinions, so you guys can totally take it or leave it. Thanks for watching. I hope you have a great day, and I'll see you next time. Freeze!